Hey guys, welcome to day 23 of the 44-day challenge. I'm Scott Duke. You're inside the Wellstand studio, and we are reviewing the book today called How to Sell Your Business for the Most Money, capitalized, Secrets to Unlocking the Treasures Hidden in Your Business by Grover Rutter. I'm going to be honest and candid with you guys today. This challenge is a beast. Getting up every morning and plowing through a book that is, well, this one's 189 pages to get the information out can be a little bit daunting. So today I am going to be reading a little bit more from the book. Normally what I try and do is get the information out, catalog it, and then memorize it so that I can be looking at the camera the whole time. There is so much information in this book that I know this video today is probably going to hit around the 10-minute mark. Normally they're around 5, but it's going to be worth it. You're going to have to put up with me reading a little bit more and looking at the book and not as tuned into the camera, but that's what we're dealing with today because I had less time to prepare. I tried a lot, 2 hours in the morning to prepare for this, but I only had an hour today. So either way, we're still going to rock through day 23. I'm going to get the information out to you, but the video may not be as engaging as they normally are just because I'm going to be having my face in the book. But anyhow, the knowledge nuggets that we pulled out today, the number one knowledge nugget is additional team members. So we've talked a whole bunch about the team that you need to build around yourself to make sure that your transition is successful and that you get the most money. But Grover highlighted on a couple team members that we've omitted in the past before when we were talking about the team you need to put together. So as a reminder, team members we've talked about before are attorney. You have to have a transition attorney. A CPA you want on your team. An investment advisor, we've talked about these. The missing elements that we missed before that Grover is adding to our pie is an insurance broker and agent, because you want to have disability insurance for yourself as the key shareholder if you're transitioning and have a loan involved in the company. Or the key people that are in your company and the buyer who's taking over your company. That, depending on how your deal is structured, having an insurance agent is going to be critical. Next is bankers. I can't believe we haven't touched on bankers before. You're probably already working with a banker, so if the banker you work with is good, continue to work with them. If you don't have a banker that you're working with, make sure you get one, because almost guaranteed your deal is going to need some kind of bank financing, and having a banker on your team so you can show them your financials prior, show them the details of your business prior to finding a buyer and getting into the due diligence phase is going to be massive, because you can prep your company so that it is better prepared to sell, and the banker is going to have lots of valuable information. And lastly, a business valuator. So we have talked about intermediaries. We have talked about business brokers, having people that can help get you through the whole process of the sale. And they will sometimes do valuation for you. But Grover talks about how important it has to specifically have a business valuator, someone who is going to be able to look at the nuances of your company and get it close to what the market is going to pay for it, so you have an understanding of that. Okay, so those are the additions, the 3 additions that we did not have before in our team. So we want to add those to our team. And again, cannot stress how important it is to have a team of advisors. You cannot go alone at this. It's too big a deal. There's too much at stake for you. All right, the next one is areas to increase value. We always touch on this. It seems like every book that we read has to do with how to get the most money, how to pull the most value, how to get the most cash, right? Part of getting that is making sure that you have maximized the value internally in your company, and every author has different suggestions on how to do that, and Grover is no different. So we'll pull that out of this book and add it to the list of things that you already have from the other steps. And there's a couple interesting things here. Easy ones, really easy ones. So you need the additional that he has 6 things that are going to drive value in your company. And I believe it's on page. Okay, organization. So he says it's incredibly important to have an org chart, so when the buyer comes, they can easily understand how the company's laid out and how it's organized. So if you don't have an org chart in your memorandum, get that together, and then you'll be able to have it. It'll instill confidence and trust in the buyer. The next is operation manual. Now, Grover hammers on operational manuals. He's a business broker as well. He's done plenty of deals. And he says the deals that get the most money they have an operation manual for every facet of their company. So the buyer can come in and he can say, if buyer X or client X calls our company, how are we going to deal with that client? Well, there's a manual for the person that's answering the phone. The receptionist has a manual, or the sales associate has a manual, and they have something to track through. This means that the buyer doesn't have to recreate the wheel. He doesn't have to pull that information out of your head. It's already there and ready for him. And that is going to instill so much confidence and calm in the buyer. It's going to add value to your company at the end of the day. Hammers on having operational manuals. You have no idea how many companies we work with that do not have this. And later on in the presentation, I'm going to go over a quote and how Grover suggests doing that, making sure that you have an operational manual. The last one that he had in here, which was interesting, and I thought, like, how easy is this one to set up, is have a friendly receptionist or have a culture of friendliness in your organization. That point of contact of your customer when they call is so important for creating repeat business. And it's called Net Promoter Score. If you go to the internet, look up Net Promoter Score, it's one question you can ask your current customers, and that is, how likely are you to recommend our service or product to a family or friend? And they will rate that from 1 to 10. The higher you get on that scale is the most likelihood. It dictates where your company is going in the future as far as growth. And having a happy environment, a friendly environment with a courteous, calm, and collected receptionist is what Grover says will add value to your company. How easy is that to do? So just make sure that you get it done. Okay, the next one is, and the next tips is method of exit. And I'm gonna tie this into, I believe it was day 17 when we talked about all the potential buyers you have. I'm gonna go over to the board at the end of this presentation, and we'll tie in our third knowledge nugget over on the board. But interesting, so just in a moment, we'll get to the third one. So the quotes that we pulled out of this book today are the operational manuals. This is really interesting how Grover did put an operational manual together for one company. And he states here what he suggested to this owner. Here I suggested to the owner that have each, okay, so this is, we've got to put some context here. So the context is this is a trucking company. So he's got drivers going and delivering products with trucks all around the country. So he says, here I suggest the owner that he have each route driver write a complete how-to procedure manual for each of their trucks. I suggested that he offer $100 for each operational manual submitted, and that he should also offer a prize of $500 for the most complete manual submitted, a $300 prize for the second best, and a $100 prize for the third best. What a great idea. So think about your employees and how you can incentivize them to write their own operational manual for the process that they are completing within your company, whether it be the customer service rep on the phone, whether it be the receptionist at the front desk, whether it be the sales associate that's out in the field. They can take a day, and as they're going around, like these truck drivers did, they write down everything they did that day and how they did it. And what ended up happening is, of the 12 drivers in this company, all 12 put together an operational manual. And the thing that he got out of it that was more valuable, much more valuable than $100 that he paid each person, was that his top 3 drivers that generated the most revenue, he now had a plan that they'd laid out, and they were almost, you could overlap them and overlay them. There were so many similarities. So he now had a plan that when he hired new recruits, that he could literally just give it to them, and it was the guideline and the book on how to be a top performer in that particular discipline inside the company. So what a great idea. That's a major takeaway from Grover in this book, and that was our first quote. So our second quote is around risk. Okay. So a lot of books that we've read so far in the 44-day challenge talk about what you need to do to increase the value of your company and all the little additions you need to make and the tweaks, but they do not talk about the risks, the major stopping points that you have inside your company that is going to turn a buyer away. And that's an important thing to remember too, because these things you want to eliminate. And Grover talks about these things. So number 1, lawsuits and prior acts of products produced and services rendered in the past. So if there's any lawsuits outstanding or risks inherent in the products you produced in the past, got to eliminate those. Next, loss of customers. Okay, so are you losing customers, and why are you losing customers? Obviously, we want to be increasing our customer base and retaining our customers. So tracking that and making sure that you aren't losing customers. Outdated technologies and processes. So if you have processes or technology that are out of date, a buyer is going to come into your company, he's going to look at that stuff. For him, that's just costs. Those are extra costs he's going to incur to purchase new technology to get the company up to speed. So make sure that you are keeping up with trends, especially technological trends. Keeps you competitive as well. Next is labor forces and employment issues. So if you have any union issues, or if you have a risk of a union starting up, or if there's any employment issues that are in your company, management issues, leadership issues, make sure you address those. Vendor relationships. So if you don't have contracts with your vendors that are strong, if you have one vendor or one supplier that does the bulk of your supplying, if that vendor went under, that's a massive risk. So you don't want concentration in one vendor. These are things you need to think about. Government and tax issues, make sure that all your taxes are up to date, and make sure that all your payroll, EPA issues, are going to be your zoning, everything, the governmental and permits, that kind of stuff. Make sure they're up to date, licenses, anything government related, bring that up to speed. If it isn't, that's going to be a massive flag for a buyer. Industry changes. Are there changes in your industry? Is your industry trending up? Is it trending down? Or are there changes that you have not adopted to? And then I believe there's one more on the next page. Competition. So are you keeping up with your competition? Is your competition taking more of your market share? Are they out tracking and outpacing you? Are they getting ahead? Are they stronger than you? These are things that you need to think about and the major risks. So those are some major risks that Grover lays out. Again, incredible information coming out of today's book from somebody that has an absolute wealth of knowledge. All right. I pulled one more quote of this. Oh yeah, because this one was interesting. And it's how do I sell my business was the question, right? For the most. So he just breaks it down. Okay, so here's the quote. Many entrepreneurs ask, how do I sell my business for the most money? A question that you're here to try and answer. And he says, first you must have something desirable to sell. And I pulled this out of this book because a lot of people think about, first of all, how do I sell my business for the most money? But there's an assumption, an underlying assumption that your business will sell. And you have to be realistic that if you do not have something desirable to sell, no one is going to be coming to purchase it anyhow. So even thinking about that point about creating value, extra value, don't think about that yet. Think about what you need to do to even make the company sellable. And that's go through and watch all these videos. You're going to get a lot of tips out of that. And the books that I suggest purchasing, go and buy those books, talk to advisors, put your team together because you'll find out what you need to do. But you must acknowledge and be realistic that you must have a desirable business to sell before you can ever think about adding value to that. So that he says, I'll repeat again, how do I sell my business for the most money? First, you must have something desirable to sell. Once you achieve past the desirability phase, then there are many different approaches to adding value. And that's what this whole thing's about. But you got to get that first step first. Okay, the biggest takeaway, and then we'll go over to the board and talk about methods of exit. The biggest takeaway, operational manual. If you can get an operational manual together in your company, and there's no reason for not doing it because as you go through every aspect of your company and add a manual and a procedure to that, it is going to improve your company the whole way along, and you can take it step by step. It's a daunting task when you think about it, but it's the whole thing. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Just choose one employee or one part of your company, make a manual for it. It's done, move on to the next. That's the biggest takeaway out of Grover's book that I found. All right, I'm going to pause here and then head over to the board and we'll talk about methods of exit. All right, guys. Okay, I'm going to erase this in a second, but I just thought it'd be worth your while if you haven't watched and I believe it was day 17, can't remember exactly, all the people that you can transition your company to. Then we're going to talk about the methods out of Grover's book, but it's worth reviewing this. So you can sell to family, employees, management, partners, private investors, private equity groups, PEGs, strategic buyers, or you can go public with your company. So these are all the transfer options that you have. And now we're going to talk about the methods of exit. So I'm going to erase this and then we'll get back to the methods. All right, guys, here's the methods of exit from Grover Rutter in how to sell your business for the most money. So number one, you can do an entire entity sale. So this is selling your whole business, lock, stock, everything goes. And it's going as a going concern. The next is you can sell part of your business, a division. Example of this is a rental business that I know of, and they sold off their wedding rental component of the business. And the next is sale of your assets. So this is just everything, all your assets that are in place, just selling your assets. You aren't selling your business as a going concern. Next is sale of fraction of your business to co-owners. So we spoke about this a little bit before. So if you have partners, and what Grover speaks about is that if you do not have a partnership agreement in place for if your company needs to be, if one shareholder needs to get out, you need to put that in place now because it's easier to do it beforehand than when there's actually an issue that arises. So sale to your employees, this is the employee share option plan. You can obviously do that. You can gift your business to your family. There is not going to be a lot of revenue generated from that. We talked about that before on the last chart. Then again, number 7, here's after death, you can transfer your business to your family. And this is not the best option, obviously. And if you are planning on doing this, you want to be prepared for it and have all the documentation in place. And then lastly, again, this is not great. This is liquidation. This is if your business has no value as a going concern, then you can just liquidate at 30 cents on the dollar all of your assets, something like that. If you do a valuation of your company, and I do this a lot, and it comes up that this is the only viable option of exit at that point, do not be discouraged, because you can do a lot of stuff in the next year, next 2 years to make sure that you increase the value and you can get up to here selling your company as an entity as its entirety. So these are the methods of exit that Grover spoke about in his book. Again, highly recommended book, very easy read, broken down into, I like books like this, that they break down everything and all the important points are highlighted. It's you don't have to search to pull the information out of it. The thing of it is though, that in reading this morning, there was so much information in it. It does take some time just because of the density of it, but all of it was valuable. So again, another highly suggested book. All right, guys, we will see you tomorrow on the 24th day.